Here's what's on the radar for today's Philadelphia 76ers now. The Sixers front office made an under-the-radar move, and we're going to talk about an issue that the 76ers need to fix. That's all on tap. On the docket for today's show, first, among all of our NBA channels, New York Knicks Now this week had a video with 339 likes. That's the most likes that an NBA video has gotten under the Chat Sports umbrella. Here today on 76ers Now, can we beat that number? It's always a competition inside these walls. Hit that thumbs up icon, like the video right now. Adrian Wojnarowski with this news yesterday late afternoon that the 76ers are hiring Memphis Grizzlies executive Ariana Andonian as the VP of Player Personnel. Now, why is this noteworthy? Why is this great news for the Sixers and 76ers fans? Since 2020, she has been a part of a smart Grizzlies front office structure, which has drafted and developed players at a really high level. Anytime you can add a very valuable employee to a valuable role, which makes your business, in this case your organization, better, it's always a move on the periphery that can put you over the top, that can improve you as compared to your competitors. And some of the notable draft picks while she was a part of that front office, Desmond Bane, really good value pick right there at number 30 overall in the 2020 NBA draft. The TCU product can knock down threes, defend at a really high level, and he's become a focal point for that Grizzlies team. Xavier Tillman, he ended up being a pretty solid player with where he was drafted in the second round. Vince Williams, 2022, 47th overall. Gigi Jackson, 45th overall in 2023. And then Zach Edey at number 9. And I think that Memphis needed to get bigger. They needed to add size. And they did that with Zach Edey. It was a bold move at the time and a move that a lot of people disagreed with. But I think Zach Edey is going to have a successful NBA career. Notable trades while with Memphis. Traded a 2023 first and Tyus Jones for Marcus Smart. Traded Jared Butler and multiple seconds for a player who we've talked about here on this show, Santi Aldama. So Andonian also started his career, or her career, as a scout for the Houston Rockets during Daryl Morey's time in Houston. So they did overlap, and they do have some familiarity there. She's very well respected across the entire NBA. She was on the Athletics 40 under 40 list this summer of successful young coaches, front office members, and agents in the NBA. Here's what the Athletic had to say about this hire, and specifically about Ariana Andonian. She has made a steady ascent through the Grizzlies organization after taking a short sabbatical to get her MBA from Duke. She had started her career with the Houston Rockets. Those who worked with her rave about her attention to detail and scouting acumen. Two things, of course, that Daryl Morey is very fond of. So, Chip, it's on the periphery. It's under the radar. A lot of people don't know who she is, but it looks like a good hire for the Sixers here.
Yeah, and these are the kind of moves that a lot of people aren't going to pay attention to and you won't think of when you think of improving as an organization and leading to championships and a lot of wins. But look, the Grizzlies have been an organization over the past 5+ years, even going back to when they drafted John Morant and Jaren Jackson, who they take these young players and they've been able to develop them. And even the past couple of years when they've been injured, they've been able to get guys like Gigi Jackson and Vince Williams in the second round and late back into the first round who've been able to contribute. And they've just done a great job as well of developing a John Morant and a Jaren Jackson Jr. to the point where they've been one of the better teams in the West when they're healthy. And I think this is so important because the Sixers, you look at the construction of their team right now. Obviously, Maxey was a tremendous draft pick, and they've done a great job developing him. Of course, Joel Embiid as well, going all the way back to that. But other than those two on the roster, you don't really have anybody else that you've drafted and developed within your organization, right? So I think being able to bring someone in who clearly is very well respected around the league, she's done a great job with the Grizzlies, and being on that 40 under 40 list, that's a great accomplishment. So now with some of these young players Sixers have, and Jared McCain and Adam Bona, and then moving forward, you just want to put your organization in the best position possible to not only draft players, but find players in the trade market. Going to be a big part of her role as well, and just developing the talent you have in-house. So I think a move that you might not look at on the surface and say, that's a big-time move, but just adding another member of the organization with the Sixers here, that can truly make an impact on how players develop and ultimately lead to a championship.
Hey, we're trying to inform you here on 76ers Now. That's exactly what we're accomplishing with today's show, and we're only getting started. Coming up next, ESPN listing the 76ers' biggest hole to fill. I was going to tell Chip to hit this on a show this week. He already did it. That's like MJ and Scottie Pippen right there, just seeing eye to eye. We'll talk about that around the corner, but first, today's sponsor, our friends at Prize Picks. I absolutely love Prize Picks, and I'm not the only one. This is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike on other apps on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and me and Chip and become a part of the Prize Picks community today. And if you sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5, you'll be off to a great start. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Some of our future basketball picks that we like: Steph Curry more on his points per game average at 26.5. The same for Victor Wembanyama at 24.6. And then the less for Domantas Sabonis, rebounds per game at 12.9. So pick more, pick less, pick Prize Picks. Download the app, use the code CLNS for that special deal. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, run your game. As for the need that the Philadelphia 76ers need to address, ESPN listing one roster hole for every Eastern Conference contender. And for the 76ers, it's one that we've been talking about. More front court size. ESPN watches 76ers now, and they're like, we wish that we could have a YouTube channel like that. Here's what ESPN had to say. Philadelphia will likely begin the season with Tyrese Maxey, Kelly Oubre, Paul George, Caleb Martin, and Joel Embiid as the starting 5. That lineup provides plenty of defensive versatility and shooting around Embiid, but features just the 6'5 Martin next to Embiid in the front court. Martin would be the shortest starting power forward in the NBA this upcoming season, according to ESPN Stats and Information Research. And this has been a big topic of conversation for us right here on this channel. I'm not as concerned about Caleb Martin's size as ESPN might be. I think the Sixers do have some depth there. And when you talk about wingspan, they also are a long team. More from ESPN. Philadelphia took a swing at 6'8 forward Gershoni Abaselli on a 1-year minimum deal after he impressed for the French national team in the Olympics. The former 16th pick by Boston in the 2016 draft played sparingly in 71 games across 2 years for the Celtics before heading overseas, but has been a key contributor for Real Madrid while improving as a three-point shooter. And I know that to a lot of people, he's unknown, but if he can find the success that he had overseas, I think that he could help solve this issue for Philadelphia. And, of course, you can't bank on that happening, but I'm a believer in the player because I saw how he matched up against NBA competition, an elite NBA competition, when France played Team USA. Let's go back to ESPN here. Morey also has several draft picks at his disposal to move in trades, and the 76ers signed KJ Martin to a 2-year, $16 million deal, including a non-guaranteed second year, which could be used mid-season to add another rotation piece. Considering the conference's stars at the 4, Tatum, Brown in Boston, Randall in New York, Giannis in Milwaukee, Siakam in Indiana, Mobley in Cleveland, and then Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner in Orlando, finding more size could be paramount to Philly's quest to dethrone Boston. And look, there's a good point to be made there, right? The question is, where does Philadelphia find that size? These types of players are not readily available right now, and they're difficult to bring in, and they have become sought-after commodities for other teams across the NBA. But you can start the year with this roster, and you can evaluate it, and then if you need to make a move toward the NBA trade deadline, ESPN pointing out, you have the pieces to make that move. Some potential trade targets to bring some size into Philadelphia. Jared Vanderbilt of the Lakers. He can really defend at a high level. Maxi Kleba, I'm a little bit on him. He can hit the three as a big, but isn't a good defender. Santi Aldama, as we've talked about with Memphis. Larry Nance Jr. would give you size and athleticism. And Mo Wagner went back to Orlando. Would the Magic be willing to give an Eastern Conference, not rival, but an Eastern Conference contender when their contender is a player who they could use, who obviously they like with the Wagner brother connection? So, Chip, do the Sixers need to address their front court size here? Obviously, again, we've been talking about this lack of front court size for them.
Yeah, and look, it's definitely, when you think about the Sixers roster, they don't have too many true weaknesses. I think this might be the one thing you look at and say, okay, I can see this is what they need to address, but I'm personally not so sure it's as big of an issue as ESPN might make it seem here. Again, I get Caleb Martin is smaller, and then behind him you have an unproven Gershon Yabusele, and a Ricky Council who still has to prove himself as well in the league, despite showing some flashes. And KJ Martin, who hasn't really done much and is looked at as more of a trade piece. So I get it's a need, but do I think it's something that would totally prevent the Sixers from reaching the conference finals or reaching the NBA finals if they don't address? I don't think so. I think that even if they stuck with the current roster they have right now, they are still constructed in a way where they can make a deep run. Now, as you mentioned, Chase, they certainly could see how the roster plays and how it actually looks on the court before making any type of move. Of course, that's why Daryl Morey gave Martin the contract. That's why he's keeping an open roster spot heading into the season, so that they have this flexibility if they do need to make a move. But everyone keeps talking about Caleb Martin being this undersized player, and it's not really going to work out well with him at the 4. Look, he's played the 4 for a good part of his career in Miami, and it hasn't been a major issue because he has that wingspan, he has that defensive tenacity, and he's still going to have Joel Embiid next to him and Paul George and Kelly Oubre next to him in the starting lineup. So it's a small starting lineup. I do get it's an issue. I think the Sixers will at least take a look at addressing it, but I don't think it's such a glaring need that you should look at this issue and say this will keep the Sixers from winning a championship. I don't believe that. I think they're good enough as is right now to make a deep run.
Yeah, that's how I kind of see it as well. Like, I think the Sixers team is plenty talented, and you make some good points there. And I just think that the roster construction has been on point for Daryl Morey. This is also a team that has a lot of depth as well. And in today's NBA, it's not like you need like the prototypical 4, the prototypical 5. You can mix and match some of your lineup. So we'll leave it to you. Do the 76ers need to trade for more size? Y for yes, N for no. Thanks for watching and rocking and rolling with us here on 76ers Now.